Hello guys, I've not done a video in a while. Uh, Currently I'm playing AFK Journey and this is my opinion of the tier list. There's a couple of units that actually aren't included in this list and I'll discuss them afterwards if I remember them correctly. But let's get to it. I just thought I'll share my point of view. I'm about 85 days into playing the game, server 129. So let's get to it. So I will be ranking some of these units just overall. Some of these are really good for PvP. Some of them are good for very PvE focused content. So some of these are just not seen. Don't waste your time. Just keep them off your wish list. Keep them off anything that's you spending any kind of resources on them. So I will be putting Valen. Well, not Val. Is Valen something? I don't even know his name. That's the downside. I don't know their name, but they're just D. It's just not useful anywhere. Just doesn't do any damage. The support is mediocre. Just yeah, just not great. And some of these units, honestly, I just don't know the appeal of them. Um, I haven't put any time into them. Haven't spent any currency on them at all. Nothing like that. I think um, Rowan is an S tier unit, useful in PvP, PvE, bunch of different modes. Getting energy is crazy good, and getting health is really fucking good. So just put him there. Lemont, I will say somewhere around C tier because they have some niche appeal, some kind of comps, some enemy teams that are going to benefit from having a Lemont just for pushing, especially if you're going to run units like Aaron or anything just CC focus like Cassidy. That's where he will come in. He can be good for stalling the game, but generally speaking, PvE, PvP, I wouldn't put time into them until you have got the other good units up. OD 100% S tier, my best DPS right now. I don't see a point where I don't see him being useful. Like he just generally just does a lot of damage. The execution is great. There's a couple of units that he actually completely deletes, like Igor and Brutus. Both of them get executed because of his ultimate. So a lot of PVE levels, they are great. PvP, if you are going to fight somebody and you see them have any of the units that do outlast one-hit kills or just general high damage, like Igor and Brutus, just run them. Um, Seth, I'm going to say if you're going to invest in an A tier unit, they're somewhere around B. They generally are quite useful. There's a couple of times where they do decent damage, especially in what was it? I don't play the mode. It's the where heroes are all the same level and you choose which one you want to use from the shop. They're useful there, but obviously if you're going to be spending your envelopes to try and get somebody, they're just not going to be any use to you compared to some of the other units you can get. Smokey S tier, very useful unit. Generally PvE, PvP not as much, but PvE 100%. They come up most of the time. It's a group wide heal and damage. There's also a lot of comps that you find out in the later stages, which focus on using units like, where is he down here? If he even is there, Rainer. If I can't see him, Rainer, for example, teleporting Smokey to the back line, and then Smokey goes ahead and gets their ult off with the actual damage inside of things, and then clears up. It's very good. Just generally, if you're going to focus on some supports, Rowan and Smokey are two great ones, and Odie is great for just general spending bits. I would say Aaron is I would beforehand I would have put him A tier, but if you do get him to M plus, which is Mythic plus with the weapon, they will pop their ultimate straight off the bat, and actually it does a lot for you. It just groups all the enemies up. You can work off of that for any other units that you have that do damage, and is just not a bad one to focus off the bat. I didn't focus on them down from the beginning. I got him to M plus very recently, and it's just generally useful to kick off the fight, not having to actually get any energy to do that. Same applies to forget his name. Funny enough, I've not actually been able to use the comp that Aaron and this dude use together, but they are generally very good for damage, very high damage, 100% worth it. Um, I've seen some stuff and I've had to face some stuff, and it's very useful to run. Um, I keep forgetting her name. Leica. Leica, I think, is a B tier unit. The support is good, but I haven't yet felt like I've been happy getting them up. One of my first S plus units, but I just haven't been able to put her to use where I felt like, oh yeah, that was a very worthy unit of spending time on. Same goes for Lucius. I think he has very good comps that they can fit in. If you are an earlier server and you have the Beetle coming up, that's where he comes in because he has something to do with shields. But generally speaking, he's not been my top priority. Currently, he's mythic for me and still useful. If you do get them up, I think you'll find plenty of places to use them, but I wouldn't say he's in the top A or S tier units to do that with. Actually, I just noticed something. I'm just gonna pop these guys in here. If you like them from the story, great. If you're going to look at powering them up, you can't. Um, Let them just be there. Igor, I think Igor is a unit which is useful in, for example, PvP and some comps. However, generally speaking, apart from Tower, where you are stuck with the Graveborns, the limited Graveborn pull. So if you are in that situation, yes, he's great. You want some damage, you want that survivability. He can be an off tank because of the fighter role that they have and the invincibility. But generally speaking, I wouldn't put him anywhere in A or S. You can also get him from the store, buying them with the arena tokens. So it's a unit that you can get up. Once you've done the main ones that you need to do, then you can go ahead and do them. Main ones being like Cessia as well as the Rowan copies that you can pick up. Cassidy, I think Cassidy is a B ranker. They generally have good usefulness in some Dream Realm comps, and the CC is useful. And the investment on this unit is quite high. You need to get them to Mythic as well as Weapon 10 for them to help you with those fights. But generally speaking, they're an okay unit. So if you do pick up a copy or you really like the way the unit looks and you just say, oh, I'm going to go ahead and actually pick them up, fine. It's not a bad thing. Um, Damien. Damien is a unit which I would say maybe A tier just for the fact that he is reliant on other units and there's niche situations because he kind of leaves um the battlefield to go ahead and do his own thing, which then means that you don't have to worry about them dying. They are a good support, and if I'm comparing it to the rest of these units, I will say that they are an S tier just because some of these units are not as worthy as getting as Damien is. Kruger is a unit that is very useful for Dream Realm because they reduce the physical defense of the enemy, which means your units do more damage. I wouldn't say he's anywhere sort of A or S. I think if you actually, I'll say A. Uh, Apologies for that. I think it's A just because he's a unit that is worth getting because a lot of the Dream Realm and the bosses do want him to be quite high. Although he has no use in most yeah, no, back to B. He has no use in most of the PvE content when it comes to the AFK pushing. Dream Realm is the only place that he's useful, so there he is. Um, Corrin, on the other hand, I will say he is a unit overall for general gameplay, an A tier unit. However, if you are going to look at Dream Realm or things like the Wolf, the Bear, or the Beetle for the Primal enemies, he is 100% an S tier unit. From I think for every single one, he has been one of the higher damage dealers because of true damage. So you do need to get him to the point where he can do true damage, but then he does do a good job. Cessia is an S tier unit. Just the CC alone, there's two forms of CC, her ultimate and then the general sort of entanglement that she casts. She's also in the store, so it's very easy to get up, and I think you get her as your guaranteed 10 pull when the game first begins. It's been so long, I do not recall. So she's 100% just an A tier. Just do it. Granny, I think Granny is an A tier unit. Again, if you just need a tank, an off tank, then she's a not an off tank, sorry, but just a secondary tank. They are useful for two team stages. However, generally she has some healing, she has some CC, she has a good bit of damage with her crowd control effects as well. So she's going to be sitting somewhere around A tier. Again, if it's a unit that you want to pick up, you can do. She's also in the store, same as Cessia and Rowan. So just do grab her. You will eventually get her up just because she is a good unit. This guy, I have never fought against this guy in any PvP fights. I barely see him or worry about him in anything. I just don't see it being useful. So I'm gonna put him. I don't know their name. That's the downside. Forget their name. Um, what's her name? Not Scarlita. Might be Scarlita something. So I would generally be putting them quite low, but they have been relevant in some of the Dream Realm fights. So I'm going to put them here in B rank. So if you do get them up, fine. It's actually not a waste. There's useful times to do that. I wouldn't put them as one of your main units that you actually focus on. They're just one of those units that you have a choice of your you have a choice of what you want to actually be using, and there she is. Lure, again, don't use him. I do have him. He's at Mythic at the moment, but he's okay. I think it maybe even Legendary Plus at the moment, but they're okay. I'll say they're on B tier just because of the fact that the limited pool of Graveborn units in the tower means that you do need to get some kind of support, and he's the only one that you have access to. So I think if you're going to look at getting them up, C or B is kind of where they sit. I'm going to put them in C. I just don't really enjoy them. Actually, I'll put him in B. Sorry, because he does have that revive sort of grey health situation, so it can be useful if you do get them up. Thorin S tier is the best tank for me. Brutus is the only unit that kind of rivals the tankiness for me when I run it. The reason is because he has the invincibility, but generally speaking, the reviving, the shared damage side, and just overall a very, very great unit. So if you can get Thorin, get Thorin. Forget about her. She's not been useful in anything. She's only annoying to hit my Smoky in some levels where it stops him from casting. That's it. Do not get her up. Anastasia, I think her name is. I'm probably wrong. Let's see. Scar? I do not have him up. I actually have him very low level. However, I have seen some good performance from them. So we'll be putting them here. I moved someone somewhere. I'll be moving them here. They have some Dream Realm capabilities, some decent PvP performance, and generally, I think once in a while could be quite useful in the AFK stages, but do not typically see them. Sylvina, I think Sylvina is a B tier for me. PvP, she does have a good presence, but generally anywhere else, I have never seen her being used. So if you're going to be spending currency on getting her up, so your envelopes or whatever, just I wouldn't be that keen on getting her up. She's as good as a secondary unit. If you just put someone in your wish list because Graveborn again is limited, you're probably going to put her in a wish list before some of the other units. But generally speaking, yeah, not too great. I have seen some usefulness from him. Again, I don't have him that high. I'll show you at the end of the video exactly what I have. But generally speaking, he's not too high. So somewhere around C tier, I'll say. Nothing that's specifically useful. Um, Next, we've got Parissa. I think Parissa is a nice A tier unit to pick up. She's kind of a sleeper in terms of options, but generally she does quite good damage. So I wouldn't be putting her against anything. Let me go ahead and hide this. There we go. So I wouldn't be putting her against some of the other units. If you're going to pick them up, just do it. But she's generally been quite good damage for me in anywhere that I put her. So I would say it's a good unit to go ahead and consider. Now let's carry on. So I don't remember her name. Faye. Yeah, Faye is like a somewhere around here, C or D. I'd say probably leaning towards D. She's not been that useful for me. I also don't have her up. She's legendary at the moment, but there's never been a time where I felt like I had to put her in. This guy is not a unit. Valor, I think, is a solid S tier. The damage actually has been very good, and generally speaking, I still use her in my mixes of units that I have. So I'll pop her in there. Um, let's see. Muriel, I think Muriel is somewhere around C. Maybe I'd say maybe D. C D kind of rankings. She's got good damage and she's got AOE. But for the most part, maybe aside from PvP, I've not really seen her do too well. Merrily, I think they are a tier unit. You do generally have Dream Realm as the only place you can use them, but there are some builds that pretty much rely on her. She's kind of a soft A tier, somewhat B tier, but I'd sort of put her around the bottom end of A tier. If you can, do invest in them because you can buy the um, using the currency from Dream Realm, you can buy the copies, but for the most part, she's kind of like a B tier, A tier. She's only useful in Dream Realm, so keep that in mind. Highwind, I think they are an A tier healer. They generally do a lot of healing, but they don't have anything special that really puts them above something like Rowan, who just goes ahead and bumps the energy up and supplies some heals where most units do require some assistance in the beginning. So she's kind of around here. She's a very good unit, so if you can get her, do get her. She's worth spending time on. Brutus is an S tier unit. And Brutus, with the survivability, is actually very, very strong. Initially, people were thinking that he's not going to be good, but when I noticed the fact that he has an invincibility shield, any game that has these kind of character picking mechanics, anyone who can sustain unlimited damage for a while is going to be really, really, really good. Um, and then, last of all, I think Caroline is an A tier unit. The CC is very great, so do spend time. Um, Playing them, using them. But generally speaking, um, they are for specific combinations. But there's never a bad time to go ahead and pick them up. Now, there's a lot of units missing here, and I don't know how I can go ahead and potentially try and pop them in here for you. Right. So what I'll say is, if you're somebody who is listening, trying to see what unit may be good, even though they're not on the list, um, it's a very limited list actually. Um, so one of the ones we need to look at is Antandra. I think Antandra is an S tier tank, very good, generally very versatile, um, and it's worth considering. Then who else did they missed here? Um, Viperian is actually quite good, but I would say it's somewhere around the B tier PvP more so, rather than any PvE content. Then you have Floribel. Floribel, I think, is an A tier unit. The little children that they bring up are very useful, but generally speaking, um, they're not an S tier in my eyes. I think they need a lot of support, and you might as well have Cessia for it. But if you do have the time, do summon for them. Then you have Alsa, one of the new units, which is, well, I might as well show you. So I was saying, from the video there, so Antandra, and then you have Floribel here, and you also have Viperian. Yep. So she is a good unit. I would say she's somewhere around the upper tier of A tier. You have Timesia, who is, I think, actually a B tier unit. I often see people talk about them being very high, but generally speaking, I've not had too much luck with them. They have been very poor for me. They die before they can do anything. I've not invested into the mythic weapon side of things, but I just didn't have the feeling like I wanted to. Alsa, I think, is a high A tier unit. I don't think they are S. Some people vouch for them like it's a big deal, but I don't believe so. Then you have Reese. who is I don't see too much appeal in the PvE side of things. The PvP side, however, they do perform well, and I have seen some successful performances from them. Walker, I think that's a D tier unit. Do not summon Walker. Same applies to Brian. I haven't seen them too much. I think it's a bit above maybe C tier unit, but I wouldn't put time into them. And then who would be left here? Then we have Dianel. I think if you can invest the units, they will the resources they will do very well for you. But generally speaking, it's very expensive, and I would rather take a Rainer instead of a Dianel just as a general player. So looking here, Rainer. It's a very useful unit for Dream Realm as they do increase the damage that you deal, but they also are useful for just messing about when doing some of the normal stage content. Coco is a very good unit. The buff, the damage reduction buff, as well as the healing, the life drain is very, very useful. Um, let's see, are we missing anybody else? We've got Sorin. I think it's a great PvP unit, but generally speaking, anywhere else they are a failure. I don't see them being useful in Dream Realm. I don't see them being too useful in AFK stages, so I will stay away from that unit. Elmas, I think they are a solid, probably like a high A tier unit. They could be better. However, they do have tankiness and a little bit of damage. And if you're running some survivability PvP comps, they are very useful. And last of all, Scarlita. If you're not going to focus on Reyna, do pick up a Scarlita. They're they're an S tier unit if you can go ahead and invest the time into them. There's a bit of playing around on how they work, but they can do a lot because they can kick units out of the arena. I think that covers most of these at the moment. I will say, obviously, I've not been made a video in a very long time. So if anyone does listen to this and wants anything more specific, do let me know. I can go ahead and take a look at that for you. But just thought, okay, I'll make one, discuss some of the units. The tier list that was created here is a bit poor. It is missing some units, but maybe my general rambling has helped some people find something that they actually, want to summon for. Thanks for your time. Take care. Bye bye.